Hey everybody, it's Mr. Wilson. Just a short tutorial to tell you how to mask an object. Okay, let's say I'm holding a ball like this. Bing! Okay, now it's important that my fingers aren't covered up by the ball, right? Because it would look like this otherwise. Ooh, that's ugly. So like this with a mask. So I'm going to show you how to create the mask. And then you can also have the mask move like this. Let's see how it's done. Okay, that was way too complicated. I did it, as you can see. It looks pretty good, but there was 27 seconds of me holding that ball, and as I was doing it, I was trying to do the tutorial, and it was just really complex. Now, you can do it if it's that long, but it takes a long time of really fine-tuning that mask and the movement. So I'm not going to actually show you how I did that one. Instead, I'm going to do it again really quickly. You probably won't have a clip that long that you'll need to mask, maybe a 5-second clip, which would be a lot easier than 27 seconds. So hopefully you'll understand that once you see this. So this should be much easier because I'm going to do it a lot quicker. Okay, ball, ding, movement, boom, that's it.
Okay, so the keying and the transition I'm going to do really quickly because we should already know how to do it, so I'm just going to go through it real quick. So here's my ball, I'm going to drag it down and I'm going to try to match it up with the ding, and again we can use what's called waveforms. We've talked about that already. There's the ding of my waveform, and so right there is about where I'm going to want it, and I can adjust it. Ding! That seems pretty good. Ding! It appears right at the ding, but of course now I'm going to need to key it. So I go to keying over here, keyer here, click, drag, boom, and now, ding! That's good, that's perfect. I don't need to move it or anything, right? No, of course I'm going to need to move it and transform it. So I click on the link, go up here, and again, we should already know how to do this. Now I'm going to transform my basketball, make it smaller, first of all, about the regular size of a basketball. I don't want it like too small because that's not what a basketball looks like. Around there, and then I'm going to put it in my hand. Maybe a little bit bigger, I guess, like that. There, it will now appear in my hand. Ding! Perfect. Okay, but that looks garbage because it's my fingers in front of it. Ding! So I'm going to make a mask. Ugh, too bad my hands are moving so much. Look at that. That's going to make it hard. Ugh, okay. But I'll do it real quick. Okay, so now I make a mask. How do I do that? Well, first of all, I'm going to have to click done up here. So a lot of times if you don't click done up here and you try to apply a mask, it's not going to work. You have to click done. Now you go over here to effects, and by the way, this is effects. It'll turn it on and off, and if you don't need anything over here, you should actually not have it off to save real estate over here. Okay, but effects. Now I'm going to go to masks because we're creating a mask. Now, draw a mask, drawing it in here, and by the way, there might be a better or easier way to do this, but I do not know, so if you learn one, go ahead and tell me. Now, I'm going to want to do something else because I can't see my fingers. One of the things I can do here, go over to the inspector window, and again, this should also not be open unless you're using it. So if you're using it, open it, but if you're not using it, have it closed. So it should always be like this until you're like, okay, I need to look at my inspector window. What do I need to do? Over here is if I go to opacity, which means how see-through it is, which right now it's 0 see-through, but I can go like this, make it so that we can kind of see through it because I want to see my fingers. So if you lower the opacity, this type of mask, if you want to draw the mask over your fingers, and you see I have this pen tool. Another thing I'm going to want to do to really get a good read on those fingers is I'm going to zoom in. So right now I'm at 36%, which is fit, and I'm going to go to 100%. Now, look at my face, crazy. I'm going to click on this and go, and I can bring it to where my ball is. So this hand here in the screen tells us what part of the picture we want to look at. So it's in the lower left-hand corner of the picture, so I'm dragging it there. If I want to see the upper right-hand picture, I'd go like this, which is nothing. So I'm going to want to drag it down here. Now I'm going to draw a mask around my fingers. Each time I click, I get a little dot. Boom, dot. And you can make as many dots as you want to try to make a decent mask around your fingers. And actually, you're going to want to make it thinner than your actual fingers, which will give you a little bit room for error. Because if you make it too thick, then you'll get a lot of space that you'll see in between your fingers and the actual what we don't want to appear. So kind of make it thinner. If you're doing fingers, you're going to want to make it a little bit thinner than your finger, if you can see what I mean. So I'll go ahead and finish this, and you'll just watch it in fast motion. Okay, so now that I've made my mask, I'm going to go over here and I want it to be a mask like this. I don't want it to be like this, because then this area here will not be masked out. So I'm going to want to have it all the way down here, make the mask, and then cut across here, because I want this to all fit the mask. Okay, in other words, this part of the basketball is going to be canceled out. But if I go like this, everything within the mask will be canceled out. If I go like this, then this part of the basketball will not be canceled out, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. So now if I go here and now I click here, boom. Now one of the things we have to do is invert the mask, because when you make the mask is going to show everything within the mask. And so I'm going to go over here and find my draw mask. This is my keyer. This is like information involving my keyer if I needed to do anything with my key, but I don't need to because it looks good. But here is my mask. Now I need to invert the mask. So just click on invert mask. Sometimes you don't have to do it depending on what you're masking. I found that when I'm masking, I almost always have to invert it. Don't worry about it. Just click invert mask and you'll see that there is my mask. Now I can also see that I've made it too wide, because do you see the basketball is showing a little bit too much. Well, let's see. We'll see. Probably I'm going to need to redo it a little bit and make it thinner, but we'll see. Opacity like this. Yeah, so you can see I've got too much around my fingers, so I'm going to make these thinner. And I do that by clicking back on the mask, and now I can just take these, make it thinner. So I'm going to do that and fast forward it. Okay, so now again, invert mask, make it, let's see what that looks like. I think that looks pretty good. Ding. Okay, but you see, as soon as my hands move, and this is why I said I have too much movement in my hands, that mask is going to need to move with my hand. Now the thing is, I'm going to animate this basketball, and hopefully when I animate this basketball it will move corresponding with my fingers, but my fingers are not going to stay exactly in this position, right? So you'll see that of course I'm going to animate now my object, but my fingers might not be in the same exact position, which is why I had to do so much in that last one. Okay, so now I'm going to animate my object, and the way that I do that is by, okay, I'm going to go to fit, just so you can see this. I click on my clip, and now I should be able to go to transform, and here is my keyframe. So I click that keyframe, and now I'm going to go to make it much larger again, so again I can really fine-tune my movement. So I'm just going to go frame by frame, one frame, so it's moving to the left and down just a touch. So you can see when I move my basketball, the mask is moving with it. So I hope you see that. Now again, as long as my fingers stay in the same position to each other, then the mask is going to be fine. But if my fingers start to lose positioning as far as the relationship to each other, then the mask is going to be also kind of messed up. Okay, so I'm moving down here. Now, the crucial thing as I'm doing this is I don't want to see any daylight in between the fingers and the basketball, right? So I want to make sure I don't want to have it like this. This is going to have some of this daylight there, so I'm always going to want to make sure that I don't have any daylight. Now this should look pretty good once I'm done, but you don't want to have any daylight. You want to keep that. Now it's good that my fingers are pretty much all in the same position. right here I'm going to blade it right before my hand makes contact with the ball. So I'm going to hit the B key, blade it right there, and now go back to A select, and now one frame forward, and here on this I'm going to go over to my inspector window and I'm going to get rid of that mask, and I can simply just uncheck it, and there we see. So now as soon as I knock it out of my hand, now that's going to be kind of weird, and if I wanted to I could mask that again, but
boom.
don't need to do that to the mask. Okay, so now that I've done that, let's take a look at what it looks like.
Bing. Movement. Boom. That's it.
Okay, so that took me a lot of time. You can see how many keyframes I needed to add. That's one thing. Also, it took obviously some time to draw the mask. If I go to done here, then you'll see that mask. Look at all those points I had to add. So it took me a while, but I think it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. It looks better than the other one, I think, because it's so quick.
Ball. Bing. Movement. Boom. That's it.
Okay, so that's how to mask. Again, if you need help, you can ask me or ask someone else who knows how to mask. This will really help you if you're interacting with your animated object.